Today is a day we've all been waiting for college football 26, and as we get the deep dive for Dynasty mode in 26, as today we're going to talk about everything within the dev blog, which is, I think, like 70 something pages, over 13,000 words. We're not going to go into every single little bit on here, but we're going to cover some of the biggest details that you need to know about Dynasty for college football 26 and why this year's Dynasty is bigger and shaping up to be better than last year's game. It may be the deepest Dynasty we've seen ever, potentially. So let's dive in to everything you need to know about Dynasty mode for college football 26. As always, if you like, leave that thumbs up, comment down below, and let me know your team you're going to be running your first Dynasty with in college football 26. Let me know down below. But here we go. We're going to start off talking about building your own coach. Again, we know there's going to be over 300 real world coaches in this year's game with head coaches, OCs, and DCs. But of course, you can create your own coach as well. And with this, they wanted to have a lot more details and a lot more customization for you with your coaches. So they've added ways to customize your appearance, which is something that was missing from last year's game. You really couldn't customize them very much. So they have new gear options to let you show off your wardrobe. You can deck out your coach in everything from a hoodie to joggers to a quarter zip and jeans. If you're feeling really nice, you can even go out there with a sleeveless shirt and shorts, maybe potentially. Let them know you mean business, kind of a, more casual demeanor out there, or whatever you want. So there's a lot more options for you in terms of your wardrobe, but also with this, you're going to be able to, they're introducing coaching demeanor and stance customization. So now your coach on the sideline will not be the same as every other coach you see out there. You can actually choose, is your coach going to be cool, calm, collected? Are they going to be high energy, really emotionally charged, that's firing up the sidelines? You can choose this. So now you can see some screenshots. I'm showing this along with everything from last year. You can now say your demeanor is calm. You can say it's intense. You can say stance is like hands on knees, and you can change the different stances to your choosing as well. So you can really tailor your personality that you want your coach to be. You can now have that here reflected in college football 26, which I think is a tremendous thing. Now, of course, they did say coaching progression, they've upgraded this. So now the maximum coach level has been increased from level 50 from last year's game to level 100 in this year's game. So with that, they're adding a ton of new coaching abilities and archetypes, of course. So elite archetypes and all that stuff are still returning. So you still have elite recruiter, master motivator, scheme guru, all offering all these different things. You have hybrid archetypes like talent developer, strategist, or architect, and they offer more elite archetypes as well. You have program builder, CEO as well. So all of these are back here in the game. One of the big things they're saying that they're changing how XP is going to work. So when you're getting deeper and deeper into one of these particular trees, it's going to get more and more expensive. So you have to really think, do you want to spend these points? Because they're going to cost more and more and more as you get further and further into this perk rebalance with this year's game. Now, with coach archetypes, they said they want to start with 3 base archetypes of recruiter, motivator, tactician, now require a minimum coach level to unlock. So this change encourages more focused investments early in your career with your coach, making the initial archetype choice even more meaningful than it was before. It's no longer a quick jump between archetype to archetype. Instead, your coach will grow into their identity over time through the years. This helps reinforce the rock, paper, scissors relationship, not just between the archetypes in the game, but also between you and your coordinators, which are more important than ever, because now with your staff, you can have them complement you with your strengths, or they can counter you. If let's say your strength is you're a recruiter and you want to have your OCs be really good at being the strategy and the different things, the motivators, things like that. You can now have that kind of rock, paper, scissors gameplay with this year's game. They're making it bigger and better than ever, which I'm very, very excited about. I'm really excited to dive into this myself and see really how deep it is, because from everything we're reading here and the deep dive and looking at the trailer and everything, it's looking really, really good. But I want to move on, talk about the coaching carousel, because this was an area I thought was lacking last year. Yes, it's nice to have it in the game, of course, but I felt like it was kind of I don't know, it wasn't super deep. And I felt like if you were let's say you were an offensive coordinator at Alabama and you went undefeated, won a national championship, then you go to the coaching carousel, and sometimes you wouldn't get those head coaching offers from the big schools like you would probably see in real life. You were getting offers from smaller schools like a Texas State or a UNLV or something, a little smaller type of schools and whatever it may be. So they're trying to change some of the logic with this year's game. It looks like they're saying you're gonna receive notifications when your coordinators either accept or decline job offers, as well as alerts when one is being poached for a new coaching opportunity, whether they're leaving for a promotion or jumping ship unexpectedly. You're gonna stay informed and be able to react to this as well. With this, coordinators, they again play such a pivotal role in this year's game. They've added 3 new program builder abilities that give you more control than ever. So now you have the forever home. So your coordinators are less likely to leave for another job if you have the forever home ability. The deal sweetener ability makes coordinators are more likely to accept your job offers. And cream of the crop, this increases the caliber of coordinators available for you to hire. So they've also rebalanced offer logic. So the head coaches at the top tier programs are going to receive better and more consistent job opportunities when the carousel spins. And if you've earned that spot amongst the elite, the market will reflect that for you in this year's carousel. So all of these things sound really excellent to me. Everything in the staff moves is going to be, they've really done a good job of displaying all the information you need to know within the staff move screen. So you're going to be able to see coaches' previous roles and schools to their new role and their destination, all right there as well, and why they left as well. So you're going to be able to see everything you need to know from the coaching staff move screen. So I think they're doing that a really good job in Dynasty mode. We're going to dive into some of that later detail in just a bit, but they're really doing a good job of showing you information that you need to know. Now, the trophy room stuff, I'm not going to spend much time on this. I think if you know what a trophy room is, you know what you're getting here. You win trophies, you're going to see reflected for your coaches. They have over 160 rivalry, bowl, and individual trophies in this year's game across all the modes. And again, all of that's going to be reflected. And they're also adding in more actual awards into this year's game that we're missing from last year. But where I want to spend some time now is the portal. The portal is one of the biggest parts of college football now. And they said now you can expect a consistent pool around 2,000 players entering the portal in 26. They said with 25, players were assigned their star rating based on their overall. Now in 26, star rating is more heavily influenced by a player's position and their class year. For example, if you have an 85 overall freshman QB, they will be scored higher than an 85 overall senior, like a guard. Okay. So depending on their position, their overall, and their class, that's going to tell you where they're going to be ranked in the portal now. They say it's not just a mechanic, it's a philosophical choice. So do you build around the portal? Do you build around recruiting, or do you do a hybrid? That's all going to be for you to decide in this year's game. But now it's going to be a little bit more difficult to be able to land and keep people going, because now the portal is going to be so much more involved with so many more players involved in the portal. It's going to be tough to, there's going to be teams out there that have a heavy amount of portal movement. There's going to be some teams out there that don't have very much portal movement at all. So managing player expectations in this year's game is going to be very important to recruiting new talent. In today's game, players want more playing time, more exposure, and they want their goals and your alignment to be fitting with those as well. And expectations do change over time. So they said now with deal breakers, they are going to fluctuate and change. So deal breakers now, even let's say playing time, maybe playing time isn't a player's official deal breaker, but it can still be a deciding factor in whether or not a player stays. So let's say you have a quarterback that's like a former 5-star recruit, high rated backup, and they're not playing a whole lot, but that's not their deal breaker. They may leave. We've seen this happen in real life. They say here, 2016, Alabama quarterback led their team to a national championship as a freshman. 2017, he returned, helped Bama reach the title game again, but was benched. What happened? He left. Okay, things like that will be reflected in 26, so it's gonna make it more realistic than ever. This logic applies. 5-star prospects, highly rated players, and quarterbacks will evaluate playing time, even if it isn't their listed deal breaker. And if they're not getting on the field, or they're in a logjam where maybe it seems like they're not gonna be able to get to the front, they may leave. They may hit the portal. this helps prevent stockpiling talent in a way that doesn't reflect real world, or that doesn't reflect real world behavior. And now it makes roster management more dynamic and more authentic to the real life game you're seeing out there in college football. So this is also going to be prevalent in your online dynasties. So if you are a cheese artist and redshirting every single player, that can now hurt you. Now redshirting comes with a risk. So if you want to redshirt a player and limit their playing time, they could potentially leave and go to the portal now. So you got to be very mindful about redshirting and stockpiling all this talent, because it may be wasted efforts because they may be leaving you after a year anyway. So you got to be very mindful of this. So you have to be working around the evolving expectations as they just talk about with this year's game. They said you got to be mindful with dynamic deal breakers. They require grade now scales based on players' overall high schools rating and transfer portal rating. The better the player, the higher their expectations. They said they saw this with, of course, Nico, Tennessee's former quarterback, who went over to, I believe, UCLA as a freshman, led the team to a college football playoff in a breakout season. As he grew to be a bigger and better name, so did his expectations, particularly around his brand deal breaker, which increased significantly the following year. You're going to see these things happening now in college football 26, especially in the NIL space. You saw that the expectations were met with Tennessee. He left and went to UCLA. This is just one of the many stories you're seeing with college football today. So now in 26, this behavior will be reflected in game that makes the game feel more organic, reactive, and alive more so than ever. So they got an example here on Oregon with Moore, the receiver out of Duncanville, Texas. You see his playing time. He's an A plus. That's his deal breaker. It's a B plus, excuse me. The team Oregon has an A plus for his playing time. Over time, that will change. Now the need. This was his freshman year. Now looking at his sophomore year, he's went from an 85 overall to a 91 overall. He's a big star now. Okay. Now his deal breaker is still playing time, but now the need is an A minus. Thankfully for Oregon, they have an A plus, so they're able to probably retain him. But if you don't meet those expectations that do evolve over time, these players may be hitting the portal. So you got to be very, very mindful about these things. So if players do decide to leave, abilities within the program builder archetype can help you try to get these players back. You got Gift of Gab, which gives you additional persuasion attempts to bring them back. Roster retainer ability increases chance of persuading a player to stay with your program, or full refund, which gets an additional persuasion attempt if one of your attempts is successful. So with all of this, the portal's looking bigger, deeper, and better than it was last year. And there's customization for the portal as well if you choose to. So you can change some settings. So now you can make max transfers per team if you want to. You can change transfer probability for user teams and transfer probability for CPU teams. You can now adjust these things if you want. If you think the portal's too wild, you can tone down some of the settings. If it's not wild enough for you, you can change some of the settings as always as well. So that's a nice thing to see, that customization at your hands in this game in 26. Now with recruiting, they focused in the trailer a little bit on the location-based recruiting. So this is really big for scheduling visits. Last year's game, every visit in the game was 40 hours for the visits. Now, depending on where your prospect is, let's say I'm the Arkansas Razorbacks, that's my team, my alma mater. Okay, if I'm recruiting a kid out of Little Rock, it's not going to cost me many hours to be able to drive down 3 hours or whatever, or a short little flight that's going to take 30 minutes. That's going to be like a 10-hour recruiting visit instead for the scheduled visit. Now if I'm trying to go recruit a kid from New Jersey, that may be the maximum at 40-hour visits. So for the cross-country visits. So now, depending on where these targets are, the scheduled visits will be anywhere between 10 to 40 hours, depending on how close or far they are in terms of their logistics. So that's a significant swing that's going to make you really think strategically about your targets. Are you a massive program that can afford these hours for cross-country recruiting? Are you a smaller program? Think of, if I'm a Texas State, okay, you're in a state that's obviously rich in talent, but there's also a lot of people around. You're probably not gonna be able to afford to go really far out of your pipeline to be able to go try to recruit people. So you're probably going to stick close and try to recruit local talent and save those hours for other things you need. So these types of plays are going to be really interesting to see in this year's game. Now, When talking about discovering the next big stars of college football 26 within recruiting, they've reordered how attributes are being displayed during scouting, ensuring that shared ratings across archetypes now appear consistent in order for every position. This is going to be really big. And also, they're expanding the power of the mind reader ability within the strategist archetype, which I love this addition here. They said now, if you possess mind reader for recruiting position groups, you'll be able to reveal their dev trait directly through scouting with the strategist archetype with the mind reader ability, giving you a critical head start in identifying high potential prospects early in the recruiting cycle. So knowing which players have big potential upside and which players are truly special talents is now a strategic edge you can learn and identify early in the recruiting process, and now then help you maximize how you spend your recruiting hours from there. So with that, then you go to your recruiting battles. If you lock it down to like just 1v1 for one player, our example here is Marquise Norris. He's a quarterback dual threat. Arkansas and LSU are battling for this kid out of New Orleans. And once you get to those last two, you're in a recruiting battle with those for that target. And then whoever reaches that the end line, whoever gets the amount of points needed first, will get the commit and lock them out of your board. So now you can get to those final head-to-heads, which I think will be really fun also when you're in those online dynasties as well. Now, not gonna spend too much time on this, but recruit generation is going to be expanded. They said they've increased the number of recruits generated every season to now 4,100, providing a deeper and more varied pool of talent for programs at every level. As part of this expansion, they've also rebalanced key aspects of recruit generation, including physical and mental abilities, as well as individual ratings and weight and stuff like that. So now we know this when kids are coming out of high school, a lot of them aren't big, massive, built players yet, like you see when they're about to go to the NFL. So a lot of the players that are in the recruiting pool are going to be a little bit lower weight, but that will change through the years as they evolve and develop and get bigger and stronger. And that's also where they're utilizing the 5th player body type now in the game with the lean body types. That's going to, again, better represent players who maybe aren't as physically developed just yet in the high school, the high school recruiting process. So very, very fun stuff. Let's keep moving down because there's so much information with recruiting. We're going to dive into some other areas because I want to get this video to finish up here rather quickly. Again, lots of new abilities coming into the game, but here's something I love is knowing that your dev traits can evolve and change. So player performance during the season now plays a big role in long-term potential. If there's a player who just dominates a season, their dev trait during the off-season progression can upgrade. Performance is now determined by their season stats relative to their position. Upgrading a dev trait is not a guarantee, however, and the better a player's current trait is, the harder it is to move up. So for example, if you're a normal dev trait, moving up to an impact dev trait, it's more likely than a star dev trait moving up to an elite dev trait. You can increase the odds of these upgrades by purchasing the Gains Better ability within your CEO archetype. And if a player does upgrade their dev trait, you'll receive a notification showing you this in the training results screen. So there you see a couple screenshots showcasing this for UT with a player that is upgraded to a star, and another training results showing for the Texas State Bobcats as well. So love this change. Love seeing that now dev traits aren't locked, that they can evolve and change based off how a player performs throughout their career. So that's just super exciting for me as a Dynasty player. I love that addition. But now I want to finish off today's video. They're talking about the wear and tear system, how all that kind of stuff. I want to talk about how they're evolving some of the changes here. They've also added in, which was missing last year's game, deeper analytics, stats, and record keeping are now going to be in this year's game. So now every national champion is going to be present in the game. And for your 30-year dynasties, every championship and everything will be recorded in the history data book for college football 26 and the Dynasty, which is just amazing. I'm loving that they're going to have all this. They are also 21 individual player and coach awards will all be present as well within the game, as including the Heisman and of course the Bear Bryant Coach of the Year awards. All of this present in this year's game. So love seeing that they're adding more to the stat tracking and keeping, and the record keeping as well in college football 26. You're seeing some screenshots. I'm showcasing some of these things for you. It's just, it's a small detail, but it makes a big difference in my opinion. And they've also redone the logic for the college football playoff and the rankings. They go through a deep dive here. I probably will screenshot this out. They show how a tiebreaker example works. You show step 1, they go head to head first. Step 2, then they go record versus common conference opponents. And then step 3, they go by their college football ranking. And that determines where teams are ranked in the college football playoff rankings. And that logic is hopefully going to be much more there. It sounds all good on paper here, but hopefully it reflects more realistic rankings compared to what we saw last year, where we saw some random teams that probably shouldn't have been ranked just going to the college football playoff. It was just not the best overall. Now this is speaking to me. This is one of the things I'm most excited about, honestly, is they are completely updating stat padding and tracking in this game, which I love. So now in 26, we're going to see, like, for example here, player season and career stats are going to now have, for quarterbacks, you're going to have touchdown percentage, you're going to have sack rate, you're going to have interception percentage, you're going to have net yards per attempt, adjusted net yards per attempt, all in this year's game. So these deeper stats and analytics, I love these things. They're accessible through stats and records keeping in your Dynasty Hub. They're also accessible in season stats, career stats, and team stat screens, and going to be displayed within the box scores as well, within the total number of plays, total yards per play, all that kind of stuff. So for running backs, you got your fumble rate in there. Punters, you have touchback percentage. For team stats, you're going to have total yards per game, rushing yards per game, passing yards per game, yards per play. Defense will have yards allowed, rushing yards allowed, passing yards allowed, all these types of things. Again, deeper stats, analytics, you're right up my alley there with that. Love seeing that they're adding more analytics and stat keeping for us in this year's game. So formation subs are back. That was missing the last year's game. They didn't have it in the game. It's a must. It's a must. Love that they have it in this year's game. It should have never not been there last year, but I'm happy to see that. They say you can now set up 50 formation subs per team, and they will persist season to season unless a player leaves, of course, or if you change teams, then you got to rechange stuff again. You're going to have custom conferences back in this year's game and with protected opponents, so you can protect those rivalries. Now you can choose these options, all customizable for you. So if college football is always evolving with the conferences, but now within the game, you can keep rivalries with protected opponents as well. Scheduling updates are all going to be in there. They've added schedules through 2040, ensuring your teams follow their actual schedules over the years. This includes annual games like Florida, Georgia, which is no longer played in Jacksonville for 2026 and 27. And they've also updated conference rotations for both the MAC and Conference USA to reflect their real world alignment and expansion changes that you're going to be seeing as well. Again, college football playoff is going to continue to see evolution and changes. So now, previously, buys were awarded to the 4 highest ranked teams in conferences. This offseason, they've changed that format. So now the top 4 teams in the college football playoff rankings receive buys instead. So that's all reflected in this game as well. So lots of big changes. There's some smaller quality of life changes as well that are coming into this year's game. But again, I'm thinking right now, I'm looking at everything you're seeing. This is going to be, I think, the deepest dynasty we've seen in years. For any football game, period. I'm really super excited about this year's game. Team Builder's making its return deeper than ever. I'm probably going to make a separate video about Team Builder at some point, but if you want to look at the Team Builder information, all of that is in the dev blog, which will be linked in the description for this video. So give me your feedback. Let me know what y'all think, honestly, about College Football 26 as a package and what you think about Dynasty overall. I'm loving a lot of the additions, the changes, and the quality of life features you're seeing here with this year's game. It's, I think, going to be bigger and better and play more realistic than it did last year. And I cannot wait to get my first Dynasty started with the Razorbacks come early access launch. Keep it tuned here for more college football content and football content in general. Stay safe. God bless to each of you. We'll see you back in the next one.